Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is another week of the Chasing Balada podcast. I'm your host, Jason, and it is Pebble Beach week, and we are pumped about that. Like I said last week, the PGA Tour is back in full swing, and other than the majors and maybe the players, I don't think there's a stronger field in golf than the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I mean, the field is stacked this week. Stacked. You know, Rory's back. I think this is his first tournament in the U.S. this year. I know he made some comments after the Ryder Cup last year about he's probably going to cut back on playing in America a little bit. And you know what? I don't blame the guy. I don't blame the guy one bit. I mean, he lives in America. He's married to an American woman. He makes his home here. But during the Ryder Cup week, Americans felt the need to just absolutely shit on him. And it doesn't make any sense to me. At all. I mean, I get it. We didn't want Europe to win. Of course, we're rooting against him and the European team. But the way he was treated is just ridiculous. The way they were all treated. Maybe I'll piss some people off here, but no professional event like that should ever be held in New York again. Just obnoxious assholes. So, yeah, and if I piss you off, I don't really care. That's my opinion on that. But anyways, Rory's back because he's defending. He won Pebble Beach last year. But, I mean, this lineup, Michael Kim, Schauffele, Spieth, Lowry, Billy Horschel, Hovland, Akshay Bhatia, Harmon, Fowler, Finau, Clark, Glover, Rose, Scheffler, Matsuyama, Keegan Bradley, Ludwig Albert, and Sahith Theegala, right? And those are just the people that I have starred that I follow as favorites on the PGA Tour website. But it's a loaded field. And, again, other than the majors and the players, I feel like this is one of the most stacked fields in golf. Speaking of the majors, let's rank the majors real quick. I would have to say, because I think we all, as golf fans, we all look forward to the major championships. In order of what are probably my favorites, I would probably say I'd have to put the Masters first. Then the Open Championship. I do not call it the British Open, and I hate when people do. I call it the Open Championship like it's supposed to be called. So I would go Masters, Masters, the Open Championship, U.S. Open, and then the PGA Championship. Some years, and it's just really hard to get into the PGA. I mean, it's a major. I get it, and I'm not taking anything away from it or anybody that's won it because it's a major. But it always seems like it falls into the bottom of any conversation when it comes to major championships. Now, you know what? I got that backwards. What I meant to say was the Open Championship, then the Masters, then the U.S. Open, then the PGA. Because I am a golf history nut. My dream vacation is going to Scotland and just spending a month over there playing as much golf as I can. But now, in order of tournaments that I would prefer to win, Masters is at the top, right? Because you get that green jacket, you get that lifetime exemption into the Masters. And, why would that not be why would you not want that to be at the top of your list for championships that you want to win? So, anyways, yeah, it's Pebble Beach week. So in honor of that, when I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about this week, I decided I'm going to talk about my trip to Pebble. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but when I was retiring from the Navy and getting ready to go on terminal leave, we had a little going away party. I did not do a retirement ceremony. I mentioned before, I've never been that guy. I've never been that guy that wanted to do all the ceremonies and all that other bullshit. So we did have a little retirement party slash birthday party because my last day in uniform was July 12th, and my birthday is July 14th. So we the 13th fell on a Saturday, so we did a party. And my wife, being as awesome as she is, behind my back without me knowing, got me a golf trip out to California to play Pebble, Spanish Bay, and Spyglass. And now that she's a golfer, she really wishes that she'd played golf back then so she could have played Pebble and those other courses with me. But next time, oops, we'll do it. We'll do it next time because we will go back. Now, this is not a cheap adventure by any stretch of the imagination. It is incredibly expensive for the short amount of time and what you're doing while you're there. Do I think it's worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would do it again. And I plan on doing it again. And next time, hopefully, she's there with me. But, so, my wife does all of her research in anything she does. And she, looked into the, like, weather patterns and, historic weather there. Because California, we've all seen videos of Pebble Beach where the winds are just coming off the water there at 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, and it's just damn near unplayable. The weather's just shit and all that. So she did her homework on that, and she figured out that, like, the first week of September or early September historically is like one of the driest times of the year out there in Northern California. So she booked our trip. We flew out on September 3rd, and then I played Pebble on the 4th, Spanish Bay on the 5th, and Spyglass Hill on the 6th. And now to play Pebble, you have to stay at the resort. At least that's what we were told. Now, if that's changed or if that's not exactly true, I apologize. But she said, this is funny. She said when she called the resort to figure this out and get things going, Pebble Beach had one room left. And it was like $4,500 a night. $4,500 a night. That's absurd. She was like, I love you, but also Spanish Bay is also part of the Pebble Resorts. So she called over to Spanish Bay. They had rooms that were still pricey, 4 digits pricey, but not $4,500 a night. So she got us a room over there, and it ended up being a ridiculous room. We were right off of the first hole, just off the fairway. Just a beautiful, beautiful location. Any room there I would have been perfectly happy with, no complaints. But the fact that we had a view of the golf course and we were right off the first hole was just ridiculous. And everything out there is first class. Everything out there is first class. They don't do anything half-ass. So, so we got our tickets. We splurged a little bit. We flew first class out there. I had some miles. I'm a United Chase credit card member, so every time I use my credit card, I get miles with United. So we used our miles, and we flew first class out there. And I shipped my golf clubs. Here's a little pro tip, I think. I did not trust the airlines, and that's not a dig on United. I don't trust any airline to get my clubs where I need them to be on time. Now, if we had been flying we flew into San Francisco and then drove down to Carmel, which is where Pebble is. But if we had flown out on the 3rd and then maybe I wasn't playing my first round of golf until a few days later, I probably would have just done it because that way, worst case scenario, I have to drive back up to San Francisco and get my clubs. And that drive's not too bad. I can't remember. Maybe it was like 2 hours. It might not have been that long. But we were flying out and I was playing the next day. So that was a no-go. So there is a company called Shipsticks. If you've never heard of it, check it out. It is a fantastic way to ship your clubs to a destination wherever it is you're going. You set it up on a website. If you have a case, you case up your clubs. They tell you exactly how they want it, taped up or labeled or whatever the case might be. And then somebody comes and they pick them up literally off your front porch. You don't even have to talk to them. And they get to where they're going and they get there on time. So, sorry, I'm watching the Olympics as well. Oh yeah, it's the Winter Olympics. Why is the Winter Olympics the best? I think it's just head and shoulders better than the Summer Olympics. But anyways, so we flew out, like I said, we flew through Chicago out to San Francisco. And let me tell you something. I mean, we've flown first class before. It's not something we normally do, okay? We're not ballers like that. But it just never gets old, man. It never gets old when you've got your own little cubicle with a chair that lays all the way down into a bed. And you're on first class is nice on any flight, but if it's only like an hour or two flight, whatever. But when you're on those longer flights, man, it's nice. You get fed, alcohol's free, you get a bed. I mean, you can't go wrong, really. So anyways, we flew through Chicago out to San Francisco, landed in San Francisco, got our rental car, drove down to Carmel, and my wife absolutely fell in love with Carmel. It is a beautiful little beach town. Now, of course, everything there is hills. It's all up and downhill. I don't think anything's flat there. But it is just an insanely beautiful little beach town. I'm not sure how warm it gets there in the summer, if it's truly a beach town, but it does have this huge beach at the end, down at the coastline that's obviously crowded. It was crowded in September. People down there just hanging out, walking their dogs, whatever. So, we drove around and explored that on the 3rd. And then the next day, I don't think so. They have what's called, like I said, Pebble was my first round while we were out there. And they have what's called guaranteed to finish tee times. So you can book a tee time and then it'll tell you if you're guaranteed to finish or if you might not finish. So I think my tee time, I feel like it was right around 2:00, and I was guaranteed to finish. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I was the last guaranteed to finish tee time. So, we get over there I think we went over there about 11:30. She had a spa day booked over there. So we ate lunch, hung out. You can sit, there's up from the 18th green, where the clubhouse, or not the clubhouse, where the main resort building is. I don't know what you'd call it. There's a restaurant where you can eat outside and all that. So we sat down, we had lunch. Pretty sure there was a Bloody Mary involved. And, you can just watch people coming up the 18th hole and finishing out. And it's just an amazing sight. An amazing sight. The weather, it wasn't blue sky. The weather was great. The problem is, and what we learned while we were out there, is that it's not called, it's not overcast, because it's really not. Like, it'll be sunny one minute and then not sunny the next. They have what they call the marine layer. And so the way it was described to me by a caddy at Spanish Bay was, if the marine layer is at Pebble Beach, then it's generally blue skies at Spanish Bay. And then the other way around. When the marine layer is over Spanish Bay, it's usually blue sky at at Pebble. So the marine layer was over Pebble that day. So what, Excuse me. I didn't really care. I wouldn't have cared if it was raining. I mean, I was playing regardless. But The weather was really great. It wasn't windy. It was just, the marine layer was there. So what? So, I think around 12:30, I started getting ready for my round. The driving range is actually up on top of a hill away from the course. So you can take a shuttle up there. I mean, you could walk, but obviously they offer shuttles. So I went up there, warmed up, on that range. And of course, again, it's first class up there. Took the shuttle back down to the tee around probably like 1:30 because I wanted to hit some putts. And I will say this. This was actually there was a lot of things at Pebble Beach that kind of shocked me. One of them being how compact the first tee area is. Because you don't really see that on TV. You see the first tee, the way the cameras are and the way they're set up. Like you see the first tee, they'll show the putting green. But what they don't show you is that literally everything is right there, almost on top of itself. So you pull up to the main gate to go into the golf course, and there's this nice big iron cast gate, it says like Pebble Beach or whatever on it. You walk in, and literally as soon as you walk in, the first tee is right there. I mean, right there. You're on top of it. And then you have that Rolex clock that they always show. And then the little clubhouse is right there. And then right behind the first tee is that wall of champions that you see on TV where they list all the previous champions. And then right beside that's the putting green. And all around the putting green are like these little stores, a little shopping area. So it is very, very compact. Like it's just right on top of one another. It's not like you go to these country clubs where everything's all spread out and, you got to take a golf cart and go to the first tee. No, you're right there. So I hit some putts or whatever. Now, obviously, I'm playing by myself. Well, I'm by myself. I don't know anybody I'm playing with. And I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I'm about to play a bucket list golf course for most of the golfing population. Unless you're rich and you can play those courses anytime you want. These are bucket list courses. So, we get up on the first tee, and there's a sign that tells you, it recommends which tees you should play, right? Because they want you to have the best experience possible, but they don't want people slowing down play. Because, obviously, the tee sheet at Pebble and Spyglass and Spanish Bay, it's full from sun up to sundown. So they need to keep pace of play. So they have this sign, I'll throw it up here, that recommends the tee boxes that you should play. Now, the blue are the tips, and that makes the golf course anywhere from like 6,700 to 7,000 yards. And then the gold, and it goes off your 7-iron distance, right? How far do you hit your 7-iron? And then it'll list some yardages, and that's the tee box they recommend. Now, I hit my 7-iron about 180 yards. So, according to the sign, I should have played the tips. But I wasn't trying to be driver 3-wood long iron all day long. So, I played from the gold. So, the gold course, got my little yardage book here, by the way. These are the yardage books that you can get while you're there. And you know what? Honestly, they're just standard run-of-the-mill yardage books like any other golf course that might sell or make them. But and then I got my scorecard here where I kept score. Very nice scorecard. Try and get it up here on the camera. So the gold course was about 6,400 yards, a little over 6,400 yards, or the gold tees. And so I opted for the gold tees. And obviously there was 4 of us. We all had caddies. Because I felt like if I'm going to do this, I gotta like full send it, right? I'm going to walk. I think carts are actually an option, but I'm going to walk and I'm going to have a caddy. Like I'm going to take in the full bougie Pebble Beach experience here. And so I had a caddy who was about a 1 or 2 handicap golfer himself, and we'll get to that. But so we're up on the first tee, and we do the little tee flip, the gentleman's tee flip to see who's going to go first, and it's me, right? So now I have to tee off first. They announce your name, who you are, where you're from, like you're playing in an actual tournament. And it's not empty. There are people everywhere. There's other golfers standing there because maybe their tee time's coming up. There's just random people watching because they're just visiting the property. The starter's there, whoever else is there. It's literally like you're teeing off in a professional event. From here, this person. And so now I've probably got, I bet I had no less than 30 people watching. So I'm nervous as shit. I mean, I'm nervous. My nerves are amped up. I said last week, talking about, do you get nervous before a tournament? And I said it was good nerves. I'm not going to lie. I was like, the whole time in my head, I'm like, dude, do not muck this up. Just put a good swing on it and try and put it down the fairway. Now, the first hole is a par 4 that doglegs right. So you can't really hit a fairway wood, depending on how far you hit the golf ball. But in general, you can't really hit a fairway wood. We're not the pros do from the tips. That's not us. So I opted for a 5-iron because there's a bunker on the left side of the fairway right in the bend of the first hole that was about, I think it was just a little over 200 yards. So I thought, all right, I'm just going to hit a 5-iron and just try and put a ball in play. And so, I mean, it's dead quiet. Like I said, there's probably at least 30 people standing there. And I nut one right down the middle. I mean, I could not have hit a better 5-iron. And that just, the instant relief of putting that golf ball down the middle of the fairway on the first hole was just like, oh, right? Because let's not forget, people live at Pebble Beach. So there are a lot of houses around Pebble. And the first hole was lined with houses. So we were off and running. Now, I celebrated that by hitting a pitching wedge onto the back right part of the green. The pin was in the front left, and I 3-putted. So 3-putt bogey right out of the gate. But that's okay, right? Because at my skill level, if I went out there and bogeyed every hole and walked away with what? That'd be a 90. I don't think I'd be upset about that. But that's not how it went. I actually ended up shooting 84, but it was a very up and down round. Like I said, I've got my scorecard right here. Let's see. I bogeyed the first hole. I bogeyed the second hole, which is that par 5. And then the third hole is that's the golf ball I used. I kept the golf ball scorecard, yardage book, the pencil. And of course, I had to buy a towel. I got my Pebble Beach golf towel, which was only $35. So not too bad considering where I bought it. But anyways, the third hole is okay, let's back up. There are some really, really famous holes at Pebble Beach, and then there's some holes that you never see or just don't get a lot of attention. The third hole is one of those more famous holes, right? Because you have to tee off across a little, it's not really a ravine because it's not that deep, but you have to tee off across some crap, and it's almost a straight left dogleg into the green. So it's not a big tee shot. I hit 5 wood and yanked it left. I was trying to cut the corner and put a little draw on it, and I overcooked it right into a pine tree. OB. So I had to re-tee from the tee box. So I ended up with double bogey on that hole. Um, all right, cool. I've gone bogey, bogey, double bogey. You still can't wipe the smile off my face. Like you really can't. I've said it 1,000 times. I don't get mad when I play golf, and I sure as hell wasn't going to get mad uh, getting the opportunity to play Pebble Beach, even if I shot 100. But I kind of settled down, right? I parred, the fourth hole is an uphill par four, not a long hole at all. I think I teed off with an iron and had wedge in and two putter for my par. Um, and then the fifth hole is a par three that I think I hit 9 iron to about 15 feet, two putter for my par there. So I was like, all right, we're back on track. I feel good about this. And then we got to the sixth hole, and I'll say this. I think the sixth hole might be my favorite hole of golf that I've ever played. It is just, it's beautiful. It's hard to put a lot of these golf holes into words. They're because every hole you're on, they're just the scenic views, the history, right? Like you think back to everything that certain people have done on these golf holes and the people that have walked these golf holes, and you're just like you're in awe a lot of it. But the sixth hole is the par five that has that huge hill that you have to, it's like 3 or 4 stories that you have to go up. Tiger Woods hit a real famous, I don't know, it was like a 7 iron or something there that they replay a lot. But the tee box is elevated. So that makes it cool because when you hit your drive, it seems like it's in the air forever. And so I teed off, put it in the right side of the fairway. I think I had just over 200 yards or something like that in, but it was so severely uphill, I decided to hit a 5-wood. And I hit my 5-wood in the right bunker, pitched out, and 2 putter for par. Now, here's the most surprising part of the entire round. The 7th hole. The 7th hole is one of the most famous holes in the world. It's that par 3 that goes down to the water. And it's normally like a sand wedge, honestly. It's not a long hole, but you see all those videos of the pros. The wind is blowing so hard, pros are hitting like driver, half drivers or whatever the case might be. But like I said, it wasn't windy that day. So what shocked me was you putt out on 6 and you walk off the green to the right, and you're literally right there on 7 tee box. And it is not a big tee box at all. Like the way it looks on TV, it looks like this big production and all this stuff. It's tiny. I bet it's not 20 feet across. I mean, okay, maybe it is, but it's just, it was shocking at how small the tee box is there. And so, but anyways, yeah. So I played that hole. I got a bogey. I tried to get cute with a sand wedge. I put it in the left bunker. Blasted out to about, I don't know, I was probably like 10 or 12 feet and missed the putt. So walked away with a 4 there. No big deal. The 8th hole was also an incredibly beautiful hole. That's the hole, one of the more famous holes as well, where you actually tee off uphill into a blind fairway shot. So you have to know how far you cannot go because you will run out of fairway and it's a cliff and your ball will go. So I teed off with it might have been my 3 hybrid there, or it was the 3 hybrid or 5-wood. And I put the ball in the fairway and I had 8 iron in and came up a little short in the front right bunker. And this was funny. This was the only time all day I didn't listen to my caddy. So the pin was in the very back middle. very close to the back edge of the green. So that meant my bunker shot had to fly at least 20 yards. Well, I overcooked it and flew it just a hair long into the rough behind the green, which was on a severe hill. So addressing my ball, I'm going almost straight downhill onto a green that runs back to front, sloping. And so even though I'm in the rough, and the rough around the greens is thick, even though I'm in the rough, my caddy hands me my putter. And I'm like, what are you doing? Now, by this point, we've already built a pretty good relationship, so it's not like I was being a jerk. We've been shooting the shit and having a good time. But I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, dude, trust me. Trust me. Just putt the ball through the rough. I'm like, and I don't listen to him, and I take out a wedge, and I try to hit this little cut, flop, whatever thing. And I did, but I landed it on the green, about a foot right of the hole, and it was it. It was gone. Down off the front of the green. Yeah, I ended up with triple bogey. And I looked at him after that hole, and I was like, I should have listened to you. And, he was a good kid. He was like, I know. You should have. And so I didn't make that mistake again. But, and then, a lot of the holes aren't anything spectacular. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, because obviously it's one of the greatest courses I've ever played. But it's not like all 18 holes are like this storied, magical golf hole, if that makes sense. Most of them are just your run-of-the-mill holes. They just happen to be at Pebble Beach. 9, 10. I don't think any of the back 9 holes are super spectacular until you get to 14. 14's that real famous par 5. It's kind of uphill to a little bit of an elevated green. Monster tee shot if you want to clear that bunker, which I did. I think it had a little bit of a helping breeze, though. I mean, I said there's no wind, but there was a little bit of a breeze, but it wasn't like windy like it is there a lot. Yeah. 16. 16's a fun par 4. You have to hit through a chute of trees. I believe that's the hole where a few years ago Jordan Spieth hit that big sweeping hook from the fairway to a left-hand pin and made it for an eagle. But then you get to 17 and 18. 17 and 18 are two of the most storied holes in golf. 17 is the par 3 where Tom Watson famously chipped in on Jack Nicklaus in the U.S. Open. And 18 is the par 5 that runs along the bay there. I said 6 was my favorite hole, but I think I might have to say 18. 18 is probably my favorite hole I've ever played, just because of, one, how just beautiful of a golf hole it is. 2, the history. All of the history that has happened on that hole in particular is just insane. When you walk off 17 green and you step onto 18 tee box, you are standing where the greatest names in golf history have stood. And it's just, you got to take it in, right? Because, one, your round's almost over. This is your last hole at Pebble Beach. Potentially your last hole ever at Pebble Beach. So you want to make sure you drink in the moment. So that was the only hole that I had my caddy film. I didn't ask him to do that all day. He filmed my tee shot on 17. The pin was kind of front right, and I think I hit an 8-iron to about 20 feet left of the flag and 2-putter for my par. So I parred 17. 18, I was like, hey, dude, I'm going to need you to film this hole. Of course, he didn't care. let me say this: the staff at Pebble Beach treat you like royalty. They really do. They could easily be an establishment where you're just another person. Yep, welcome to Pebble. Give us your money. See you later. They don't. I mean, it is first class. You walk in the pro shop, they act like they've been expecting you. The starter, the caddies. Now, caddies have a little bit of sarcastic wit and some smart ass to them. And you know what? A good caddy should, right? I love that. This is a person you've known for 10 minutes and they're telling you, no, don't do that. Don't be daft, right? That's how a caddy should be. You don't want a yes guy. You really shouldn't. But anyways, my caddy was awesome. He was this younger kid, maybe 22, 23 years old. But yeah, I asked him to film 18 for me. And so I had to make sure my microphone was on. Just had a sheer moment of terror there. So, and I'm going to post that. It's on my Instagram. I made a little clip of the hole. But that, honestly, that was a dream hole for me. Because like I said, I ended up shooting 84, which I'm a 6 handicap. Are you kidding me? An 84 at Pebble Beach? I'll take that every single day. Every single day. Now, there are some shots I'd like to have back, of course. But I could not complain about an 84 at Pebble. So, but anyways, I really wanted to finish strong. So I parred 17. Get to the tee box on 18. And I just stripe one. Nice little fade right down the middle of the fairway. I ended up behind that, what are they, cypress trees? I'm so stupid when it comes to types of trees. But I ended up just behind and right of that tree. So my only real chance of advancing the ball, I was far enough back I could take a full swing, but I had to keep the ball super low. So I had a mini driver. I have a Callaway mini driver in my bag. And off the deck, that thing is a bullet, just low every single time. It's not like a fairway would. So I was like, no problem, I got this shot. So I set it up, put the ball back in my stance just a little bit. And my whole goal was just keep it low and cut it and just let it go wherever it wants to go to the right side. Because I didn't want to be, if you know, you've got that bunker or whatever that is that runs pretty much the whole length of the left side. So I was like, anywhere right is fine. Anywhere right is fine. And so I laced one, and it just shot under that tree and sliced over and ended up about 70 yards from the green in the right rough. And then from there, I had a little sand wedge in, knocked it on the green, had about 25 feet for birdie. And honestly, I just missed that putt. I came up just maybe 8 to 10 inches on the low side of the hole to the right and tapped in for my par. And it was awesome. One of the most fun rounds of golf I've ever had. And my wife ended up showing up on the 18th hole. And that's another thing I'll say about Pebble Beach. If you ever get the opportunity to go, they have no issues with guests who aren't playing golf being out there with you. They could not care less. That is another awesome thing about them. She could have walked all 18 holes if she wanted to. They don't care. They have no problem with that. But she had her spa day, of course, so she was done with that. So, she was texting me. And so I told her, I said, yeah, walk down the 18th hole and meet me. So we met up after I hit my second shot. And then she walked in with me on those last couple shots. And then we got a real nice photo on the green. And, I mean, it was just an amazing day. An amazing day. By that point, the sun was, it was getting kind of late in the evening. And we ended up having dinner there up in the restaurant. And, man, It's definitely a bucket list course. If you have the means and the opportunity, um, or you're just willing to go in debt, as a golfer, you have to play Pebble. You just have to. It is expensive. I think the round, I won't go into details about how much we spent on the room and plane tickets and all that, but if when you take the greens fee, the caddy fee, and the tip, man, it's probably $900, almost $1,000. But again, I personally think it's worth it. Um, some people would probably disagree with me. No round of golf is worth that much money, but it is what it is. Would I like for it to be cheaper? Of course I would. Do I think courses like that should charge that much money? No, I do not. But it is what it is. So if you want to get to experience history, you're going to pay it, or just don't play. Those are your choices. So all in all, like I said, just phenomenal experience. I still can't thank my wife enough for doing that. Because like I said, this is before she even played golf. But she knows my love of golf, my passion for golf. And I mean, again, here I am praising her, telling her how much I love her. So at the end of the day, the takeaway of Pebble, my takeaway was this. It is surprisingly wide open. I feel like if you want a bomb driver on every hole, you can. Pebble's defense, well, one, it's rough, all right? Be prepared for the rough if you don't find the fairway. But I think its real defense is the small greens. They have some of the smallest greens in the world. And then around those greens is that thick Pebble Beach rough. So I feel like that is that golf course's number one defense. On top of the fact that the greens are pretty quick. They do not roll slow. So if you're good enough to leave yourself in the right positions, it's not that big of a deal, as we see the pros do all the time. But for us, we're just happy to get the ball on the green, but we might have a 20, 30-foot downhill putt. Be prepared. Be prepared for that 3-putt. So, but, that's Pebble Beach in a nutshell. Again, just an amazing experience. And if you're a golf enthusiast, you got to go. You just got to go.
Oh my God.
That's all right. All right, for this next segment, or the last segment of the day, with my new schedule, or my new schedule, I should say, with the kind of new schedule that my youngest son is on, my window for recording becomes very compact. So, but anyways, I thought today for golf, I would, on top of the fact I just rambled about Pebble Beach for 45 minutes, I thought I'd touch on Scramble golf. Scramble golf has been in the news. Well, if you follow golf, it gets talked about quite a bit because people are full of shit and they are liars. And you see these Scramble scores coming in all the time with, 4 dudes who look like they couldn't wipe their own asses saying they shot a 48 or a 49. I think I just saw on the news the other day somebody said that they shot 46. 46. That is 26 under par on 18 holes. Bullshit. Bullshit. But whatever. So I feel like the integrity of scrambles is just shot. It's getting to the point now where you almost need a scorekeeper or a referee with every team. But now I will say this. If it's a straight up scramble, just scramble stroke play, that's one thing. You do get into scramble tournaments. Most of them are like the charity type ones that are raising money for whatever. So they're always selling stuff. And, these are tournaments that sell mulligans. They sell string. If you're unfamiliar with string, that is where you'll buy like a length of string, say 5 feet, and you can use that as an extension of your putt. So if you've got a 20-foot eagle putt and you come up, 6 inches short, you can take the 6 inches of that string, put a knot in it, cut it off, whatever, however it works. And for scramble purposes, the ball technically went in the hole. You made it. So you get an eagle on the scorecard. Now, when you play in scrambles like that, oh, yeah, you can easily shoot 50, 48, 49. Absolutely. I don't think that that's necessarily out of the realm of possibility, depending on how many mulligans you're allowed to have per team and how much string you're allowed to have per team. If it's a 4-man scramble and all 4 people are allowed to have mulligans and string, yeah, you're going to shoot in the 40s more than likely if you're even remotely decent at golf. But the problem is you get a lot of these scramble tournaments that don't have any of that. They're just straight up 4-man best ball events, and 4 average golfers are coming in saying they shot 52, 53, ridiculously low scores. And I'll tell you straight up, they're lying. They are lying. 4 average golfers are never going to shoot 18 to 20 under par without mulligans and string. They are not. It's not going to happen. They bring these scorecards in where they birdied every par 4, they eagled every par 5, and birdied most of the par 3s, if not all of them. It's not happening. It's just not happening. And it takes the fun out of playing in a lot of these events. So let's talk about it a little bit. So I made some notes here, right? So let's just say you're playing a standard par 72 golf course. So the standard golf course will have 4 par 5s, right? 2 per 9. 4 par 3s, again, 2 per 9. And then the remaining 10 holes will be par 4s. Historically, you will, if you have a decent scramble team, let's say that your team is made up between skill levels of like 5 to 15 handicap. Say a couple of your dudes are single digits, maybe you got a 10 or a 12, 15, whatever. That group of golfers, those 4 golfers, should probably expect to birdie most of the par 5s, if not all of them. If a scramble team came in and said we birdied all 4 par 5s, I wouldn't think that was out of the realm of possibility at all, right? Because most par 5s in general are reachable in 2. And if not, the potential for somebody to put a wedge remotely close to the hole and give the team an opportunity for birdie is definitely doable. And so, the average team coming in saying they birdied all 4 par 5s, okay, I get it. You're probably going to birdie some of the shorter par 3s, or par 4s. If you're playing par 4s that are under 350 yards, or up to 350 yards, maybe 370 yards. Yeah, they're probably going to birdie a few of those, maybe 2 or 3 of them. Par threes, I mean, unless every par three plays 100 yards, you might birdie one of the par threes. I mean, let's just be honest. Because proximity to the hole, right? Most of these scramble tournaments, you generally play from like the white tees, which makes the golf course very, very gettable from a distance standpoint. So if if you're playing par threes where the average distance is, I don't know, say 145, 150 yards, yeah, you might birdie 1 or 2 of the par threes. But let's say you do, right? Let's say you birdie all 4 par 4s, or excuse me, par 5s. So there's 4 under. Maybe you eke out 2 or 3 birdies on a par 4. So you're 6 to 7 under. And let's say you get maybe 1 or 2 birdies on a par 3. So at most, you're looking at like 8 to 9 under par. Which would be what? 65, 64, 65? That would be a very, very, very good scramble round for a group of golfers that are like 5 to 15 handicap. So the fact that these people come in and say they birdied all the par 4s and they birdied all the par 3s, they're full of shit. They are fucking lying. It aggravates me. It aggravates me. Integrity, right? Because let's think about it. If you're playing a 400-yard hole, 400-yard par 4, a really, really good drive out of that group of golfers would be 250 yards, maybe 260, 270 max in the fairway. I mean, sure, you can just try and come out of your shoes and swing away and hit one 300 yards, but you don't know where it's going to go. But to give yourself a realistic opportunity, we'll say 250 to 270 in the fairway on a 400-yard hole. That still leaves you 130 to 150 yards into the flag. And who says it's a gettable flag? Number one, the flag might be tucked. Now, I would be completely understanding if a golf course, just to make it fun for scoring, made all the flags very, very accessible in a scramble. I mean, I think that would definitely make it a little bit more fun. But you're still looking at 130 to 150 yards out, right? Even after great, great drives. You pick the best one in a scramble, right? You play the best ball. And let's say the dude hit it 270 in the fairway. So you've got 130 yards into a hole with 4 average golfers. Now, 130 yards for some people could be a pitching wedge. For some people could be an 8-iron. Either way, the odds of one of those 4 golfers putting a shot inside of 10 feet is slim. Slim. Okay, I looked it up, and the average distance of birdie putts in a 4-man scramble is 12 to 20 feet. And a few episodes back, we talked about putting and putting statistics. And once you get outside of 10 feet, you're looking at a third of the time your putts will drop. Okay? Now, that's if you're playing by yourself. When you've got 4 tries at it, and you're able to watch other people putt and you're getting reads, yeah, I would say that the percentage to make one of those will go up a little bit, but it's not going to be drastic. All right? It's not going to be drastic. You should not be surprised at all if you've got 12 to 15 feet for birdie in a scramble and none of you make the putt. I mean, you really shouldn't. So, birdieing, most times, if you're going to birdie a par four, it's because it was a very short par four. And somebody hit a monster drive that left you all, little flip wedges in. Or, of course, somebody could always just hit a miraculous shot and stick one close to the hole. Now, if you've got 4 birdie putts inside of 10 feet and none of you make it, yeah, that would probably upset me a little bit. Because between the 4 of you, one of you should make it. More often than not. But, it's so frustrating that people just blatantly lie about this stuff. And they don't care. Because all they want to know is, did I win? And if they won, they think they're king shit. And look at me. We shot 50 in the scramble. No, you didn't. You cheated. And you know what? Golf is very much a game of integrity and doing the right thing when nobody's looking. So if you want to cheat, well, you're a piece of shit. I hope you see this. Now, I will say I've been in a scramble that had we had the same team. We played in one scramble that was just a straight up 4-man best ball scramble. Gimmies, mulligans, string, whatever. And I think we might have shot 65 or 66. Right? And 2 of us are single digit handicaps. The same team in a scramble we played in that had string, it had mulligans, and it had this little gimmick on whichever hole you chose. You could have 2 of them. They did this thing. It was actually crazy when I first saw what they were doing, and then I realized, oh, okay, I get it. You could tee your ball up and put a red Solo cup over it, right? And then you had to hit your ball through that cup. Now, it seems ridiculous, but it actually worked. The ball still went pretty good. And when you did that, wherever your tee shot ended up is where you got to tee off on that hole. And so it made a lot of sense to take advantage of that on like a long par 5 or maybe a really long par 4. But that's part of the tournament. That's part of the setup. So we had the cup. We just called it the cup. We had string. We had mulligans. And we shot 48 or 49. But we did that with all of those cheats. The legal cheats, I should say, right? Everybody had the opportunity to purchase whatever they wanted because, again, they're trying to raise money. So how can we make money? We'll sell mulligans. We'll sell string. We'll sell this. We'll sell that. So, yeah, when you're playing in one of those tournaments, sure, if somebody shoots a 48 or 49, 50, it's honestly, it's not that uncommon because you do have the ability, if you're smart and play your shots right, mulligans and string, to shoot that kind of score. But in general, no. An average 4-man scramble team, and by average I mean average golfers, should not be shooting lower than 64 or 65. They might, obviously. There are those days where everybody's just playing phenomenal. But in general, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to shoot more than 10 under. Let's say 10 under. Now, here's an argument that we hear a lot. Well, we had a scratch. We had a scratch with us. Our ace in the hole is a scratch. Okay, cool. Let's look at that. So let's say you have one scratch golfer. You've got one that's, say, a 5 handicap, or like, say, me, a 6 handicap. And then your other 2 players are anywhere from 10 to 15. Looking at the stats, on an average day, that team is going to shoot anywhere from 6 to 9 under. On an average day, everybody's just kind of playing mediocre golf, maybe, whatever. On a good day, they're going to shoot 10 to 12 under par. On a lights out day, meaning everyone is on their A game, all four people, they might shoot 58 to 59. So again, the idea that just because you're in a scramble, you're going to shoot in the low 50s, it's just not a realistic thing, even if you have the fabled scratch golfer. Now, what does having a scratch golfer add as an advantage? Now, there are a few things that will help you shoot lower almost right out of the gate, right? A scratch golfer is almost always going to put the ball in play. They generally hit the best approach shot into holes, right? Their putting is usually head and shoulders better than yours. Again, back to the putting episode, the statistic of 6-foot putts made by a scratch golfer versus a 5 handicap and up was a ginormous gap. I think it was 40 or 50% more putts a scratch golfer makes than a 5 handicap and up from like 6 feet. I mean, it was a ridiculous number. So, that leads to fewer wasted chances. So you probably will drain 1 or 2, 3 more birdie putts with a scratch golfer on your team. But in general, that's only going to probably bring the score down maybe 2, 3, 4 strokes, which I get it. That's a lot. Don't get me wrong. But it's not going to take you from 65 to 52, 53. Not just because you had a scratch golfer, right? That's ridiculous. So, one thing you have to keep in mind, right, is not all the putts drop. I mean, I've been on scramble teams where all 4 of us missed a 6-foot birdie putt. It happens. Generally, you put your not so great putter, maybe the worst, and I hate to say the worst putter on your team, but there's always one. Usually they go first, right? Hey, you try and give us a line. So the other 3, or maybe at least the scratch golfer and the 5 handicap, can get a really, really good idea what the putt's going to do. Now, there are days where your worst putter makes everything, and hardly anybody ends up ever having to putt. But those days are far and few between. So the idea that you tee off, somebody puts the ball on the green, and you make the birdie putt, that's not how it works. Because again, your average distance to the hole in a scramble is 12 to 20 feet. So there's a high probability you're not making those birdie putts. And if you do, they're that 1, 2, 3 out of 10 maybe. But, I could go on and on about this. It's very frustrating. It takes a lot of the fun out of tournaments. It does. It really does. And those guys know they're full of shit too. That's the worst part. And they actually have the balls to get up and stand up in front of whatever crowd and accept their awards. Terrible. If you're that person that plays in a scramble and your team eagles are the par 5s and birdies all the par 4s and most of the par 3s, I'm here to tell you right now, you're a piece of shit. You're a cheating piece of shit. It just doesn't work that way. What I would do if I was running a scramble golf tournament and somebody comes in and says they shot, first of all, I wouldn't run a tournament where everybody didn't have a handicap. in a perfect world, I get that there's tournaments out there, but you can tell people that are just your average run-of-the-mill golfer that just likes to go out and beat the ball. And you can tell who the people are that play on a regular basis. So if a team were to come in and say that they shot in a straight-up scramble with no mulligans, no string, no nothing, and they said they shot anywhere in the 50s, especially mid to low 50s, or even that bullshit 46, 47, you're going to go out and you're going to play a golf hole in front of everybody. And we're going to see how well you all play golf. Because I'm here to tell you, if you say you shot a 48, 49, 50, whatever, one hole is going to prove that to everybody. One hole is going to prove that without a doubt. So that would be my fix to that. Some people, I guess, are okay with it. I don't know how people are all right with that. I'll say this. The tournament we shot 49. Two of us were single-digit handicaps. And maybe the third guy might be a single-digit as well. And then the fourth guy was in the low double digits, like 11, 12, right? But we also had the string and the mulligans and all that. We got beat by a team by one stroke. They shot 48. And one of them didn't even play golf. Right? And this guy, he knew he was full of shit. But that's what people do just to say they won a tournament, man. It's jacked up. It's jacked up. But anyways, that's my take on scrambles. Again, don't be a cheating piece of shit. But I mean, if it's legal, if they're selling cheats, I'll tell you this, I don't feel bad. If you say I can have mulligans and string, I don't feel bad at all using it. It's part of the tournament. If you get mad that somebody shot a 50 and you shot a 60, but you didn't buy mulligans and string, that's not my problem. That's your problem. But if I'm playing in a straight-up scramble event, we a good day is going to be hopefully low 60s. That's realistic. Anything lower than that, you need to start asking questions. So, anyways, that's my scramble rant. Well, that's a wrap for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I loved kind of reliving Pebble Beach a little bit there, and I hope you enjoyed the story. I highly encourage you to watch the Pebble Beach AT&T program this week so you can see the course and get a feel for what I was talking about. Again, if you ever get the opportunity to play Pebble, take it. I could have rambled on about Spyglass and Spanish Bay as well, but I felt Pebble was the main piece of the story there. So the scramble thing, man, the scramble thing just pisses me off. So I hope it made sense. I hope you understand where I was coming from. You know, there's a time and a place for all those little extras there, like mulligans and string. But in general, most tournaments don't have them. And just be a good human, right? Just be a good human. So that's this week's episode. Next week, I think I've already made up my mind. We are going to talk about the most annoying type of people to play golf with. And I think I might touch on a little bit of a hot button topic that's not related to golf, but I'm going to talk about veteran status and what it means to me and how certain people kind of annoy me when it comes to that. But we'll get into that. Anyways, thank you for listening. As always, like, follow, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. YouTube, we're up to over 14,000 subscribers. I mean, it's just climbing. So I greatly appreciate that. And until next time, send it.